Troy Carr,
Here.
Jamie Clapham,
Here.
Katie Urban,
Here.
Donna Moore,
Here.
Walt Swan,
Here.
Angela Rafferty,
Here.
and Christine Stephenson.
Here.
All right, I invite everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberties and justice for all. All right, I will entertain a motion to approve the proposed agenda.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the proposed agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. All right, motion carries. Sharing the success. All right, Dr. Thompson, that's you.
I just wanted to take the opportunity.
Shirley, come around. You trying to be slick. Come around on this side. This side of Dr. That's right. Yeah, keep going.
There we go.
Dr. Thompson. All right. Much better.
I wanted to take this opportunity to say a few words in honor of the retirement of Shirley Fletcher. Shirley has worked for RCAS for 26 years. The last 18 of those have been at RCEC as the board clerk and administrative assistant to the superintendent. I've only known Shirley for 2 months, but her dedication to RCAS and her desire to support the board and the administrative team has been apparent since day one. I'm sad to see Shirley go, but I'm happy that she will have more time for camping, quilting, crocheting, and enjoying time with her family, especially those grandbabies. So thank you, Shirley, for 26 years of dedicated service. I have this for you, and I purposely kept my comments short because I thought the board may have a few things they would like to say as well.
Yes, we will. All right. Board members, comments for Mrs. Clapham. Oh. All right, Ms. Stephenson. Okay, well, all right, Christine, you can go. I'll recognize you and we'll just go around.
Thank you. Wanted to take a minute myself. Shirley, I have worked with you for, this will be my 6 years as a board member and all 5 with you, and in between getting information from you. What you do here is emblematic of what so many people do across this district. You just keep things happening. You follow the rules, you keep us organized, you keep us moving. And I wish I could say this to everybody at the district when they retire, because there are a lot of people who are behind the scenes, just always just helping everybody do their job. We get recognition, but you are the one who makes it happen. You kept the wheels turning all these years through different superintendents and different boards, and just nose to the grindstone, getting the job done. And we just couldn't do it without people like you. And on a more personal note, I just have really enjoyed it working with you over the years. It has just, I feel like I've seen you laugh and cry and get frustrated, and just, you've just been such a great partner to have in this work. So enjoy every minute of your retirement and know that you have, you're so appreciated.
Rafferty.
Well, I remember seeing Shirley's emails, always Shirley Fletcher on the emails that I would receive as a teacher, and always wonder who this lady was, and just so organized and dedicated. And then I had the honor of actually meeting you this summer, and I just really appreciate how you just really made me feel welcome and helped organize me a little bit and just showed me around. And I'm really grateful for that. Thank you for all your service, and I wish you much happiness in your retirement and enjoy every minute. It's time to live.
All right, Ms. Clapham.
Oh, Miss Shirley, Miss Shirley. Miss Shirley was back with my family farther than me. And so I feel like she's intertwined in my life even before I knew. And I say, most people know I'm Southern, and when you give people a title, it's because it's a sign of both endearment and respect, which both of them I have so greatly for you. And I kind of feel like you just, especially as new younger board members, you kind of mom us. And I appreciate that, and I'm gonna miss it a lot. I'm so grateful for you, and Jesse said you're just so humble, and you just do whatever needs to be done, and your attention to detail is impeccable. Your skills, your heart, they're all gonna be missed very much, but your retirement is well deserved. And don't check emails, don't be texting us. I know what you're tempted to do. Don't do it. You relax. You will be missed. And of course, I would consider you a friend and always will. So it doesn't mean that we'll disappear. It just means that you won't have to be scheduling things for us.
Well, Shirley, when I first got on the board, I never knew where I was supposed to be. I was on time, but at the wrong building, at the right building on the wrong day. And I was never at the right place at the right time. And so you've always helped guided me through that. And so now I'm pretty much almost where I'm supposed to be at the right time. In my role as a leadership, for me, secretaries play a crucial role and a foundational role on helping me do what I'm supposed to do. And so when I became president, you were always there. I didn't have to do anything. And to the point now, people ask me, well, how do you do this? And you would think I was supposed to know. And I say to them, I don't know. Shirley did all that. Well, what about your airplane tickets? I don't know. Shirley took care of all that. And so it was just wonderful not having to worry about anything, knowing that Shirley was going to take care of it. And so I appreciate your dedication, your help for me. And it got to the point where we so respect Miss Shirley. When we go on trips, Shirley would make us a binder. And it was the state conference a couple of years ago that Shirley made me a binder. And she said, Bishop Carr, don't forget the binder. Here it is on your desk. Well, I'm driving to Sioux Falls and I realized that I forgot the binder on the desk. And the horror filled my heart because Shirley had worked so hard to make this and tell me everything that I had, and I forgot it. And when I came back, I told Bobby, do not tell Shirley that I forgot this, please. But being the secretary that she is, she already knew that I had forgotten it. And so I got a little tap from Mama Shirley, but it's just a sign of how much she cares, how much she prepares specifically me for doing the work that I do. And I will be forever grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay, so Shirley, I've known you since I was like 15 because you were a secretary at Central. So you've been in my life a long time. And then as a reporter, I went through you to set up all my interviews, and then I worked here. And I literally have moments where I will think of something and laugh out loud. And just the other day, I was thinking about the time that Dr. Simon got lost on the rapid ride routes. We had to find her. We drove all around town looking for her. And you're the best cook in the world. I'm so yeah, I know, it makes me laugh so hard. Your food's amazing. I really appreciated that when I worked here. You kept me fed and happy. And you have more institutional knowledge than probably anyone in this district. So that is a big loss for all of us. But I am happy to see you're actually going to do this, because I wasn't sure if you would actually ever retire. And you need to go enjoy all the things that retirement will hold. So congratulations.
Thanks.
Mr. Swan.
Hi, Shirley. I think I'm the one that probably drew the most emails and probably corrections from Shirley. Thank you for not getting too mad when I was 6 months behind on my blue sheets. Uh, Walt, the new fiscal year is starting. You really need to get this done, and thank you for that. I think a correction from you is thought of as kind of love, because I think that you intertwined yourself so much with the job that you took it so much to heart that you wanted us to get it right. And I think that always will always stick with me. That and your crocheted potholders that you gave us for Christmas the one time, they're still in service at my house, honorably in service at your house. There's one word in Lakota, there's actually two words in Lakota, is Wopi Latonka, immeasurable thanks. When you're gifted with, when you're gifted with somebody who says that to you, you've done a lot for them. So thank you so much for doing so much.
Shirley, I've only gotten to know you within the last year, but I've loved sitting next to you, and you kind of took me under your wing and showed me the ropes and answered my questions and helped me with so much that I just had to learn and I'm still figuring out. But thank you for taking me under your wing. Your care for this district is evident, and you will be sorely missed, and we love you and thank you for all that you've done.
Mr. Sassy, Mr.
Oh.
I would certainly take the opportunity. I think everyone has said a lot of great things. Shirley, it's been such an honor. Appreciate you. I also remember in my first days here in the transition time, being lost and confused and always going to Shirley for the institutional knowledge. Always a great person to lean on and share thoughts with, and just really appreciate you. And it was a great honor. And like everyone else said, I know you're going to have a lot of great things to do in your retirement. So appreciate you very much.
Again, not much more I can add, only knowing you for 2 short years, but through that, just really appreciate your spirit of helpfulness and patience, because you've experienced a ton of change in the district. So the knowledge comes with having to build that through dealing with many different leaders and board members, and it's truly amazing just how you've done that and how you've served Rapid City area schools. So really grateful for the time that I've gotten to know you.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
It's your picture. Mine too.
I'm gonna take your picture. That's why I'm here. So you're gonna say something on that.
No, I'd rather not.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
These
Then
pictures-
she'll take your picture then. Oh, look at us. Yeah, we planned it again.
All right, thank you very much. All right, at this time, we have no open forum requests, so there's no board response. At this time, will be in the hands of Dr. Thompson for her report.
I have a few topics I would like to visit with you about tonight, starting with early releases. As you know, we have all early releases for today and for tomorrow at all of our buildings with limited or no air conditioning. And those schools are listed on the screen. I will read all of those. This decision was made by our facilities team after consideration of several different topics. Our current classroom conditions, mainly temperature, the forecasted temperatures, forecasted humidity and or heat index, forecasted level of cloud cover, and predicted effectiveness of nightly air dumps. That's the exchange of outside air with inside air. Although it may seem convenient to utilize a set temperature as our trigger point for early outs, an automatic time when we would do early outs, we really have to consider all of these factors in order to get a true picture of what the building and classroom conditions are like. And we do meet whenever temperatures are predicted to be in the 90s. We are planning to meet again tomorrow to evaluate conditions for Thursday. We will communicate our decision to staff, parents, and board members as early as possible. And fortunately, weather conditions do improve after Thursday. So hopefully we will see cooler weather soon. Looking ahead, our master's facilities plan does include significant HVAC upgrades across the district. Those improvements will ultimately reduce and eventually eliminate the need for heat-related early releases. So we're asking parents for patience and understanding in the meantime. We always make our decision based on keeping students and staff as comfortable as possible, but most importantly, as safe as possible. We know that the heat does truly impact their learning. Certainly.
This might be a question for you or for Mr. Sassy, but we are currently writing AC or putting AC in at Blackhawk. Is that correct? Okay, so we have AC at Blackhawk now. And the plan with the Rapid Valley Elementary expansion will include AC. So those are the two schools that are most immediately gonna get cool.
Correct.
Are there any others specifically planned that we can tell people when they contact us? Or do we just have, because I do know that HVAC upgrades take time because they are big jobs and it's hard to contract them out and they take a ton of money.
Yeah, certainly. So we've reserved space in the capital outlay budget as a recurring budgetary line item for HVAC projects, essentially from now until eternity. Obviously, as with most things capital outlay related, over the course of time, that has waxed and waned in terms of resources available and those types of things. So the inclusion of it as a line item really commits us based on the strategic plan, based on the facility performance index, to making those improvements on a yearly basis. I think in a lot of ways, okay, first of all, do we have post those two projects anything planned at this point? Not specifically. We're going to continue to evaluate the buildings. We did increase and take another set of schools off the list this year with the inclusion of more window AC units and getting them to essentially 100% covered, which is great. But because those are not really long-term solutions, those buildings are also in play in terms of large-scale HVAC projects. So at this point, we don't have anything planned past the Rapid Valley project. We do have funds. We will continue to evaluate and we will continue to address one of the buildings on a yearly basis or more if resources are available.
Okay, thanks for that. And then a follow-up question for you, Dr. Thompson, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, reminding the public that Dr. Thompson's been in her role for 6 weeks. I think the thing that we hear often when we have these closures are, why are we starting so early? Why are we starting so early? This is dumb. Why are we starting so early? It's getting hot. We always have to do this. So I don't want to put you on the spot and say what you think about starting earlier. I just wanted to be sure that as we're talking about closures, that's the other half of it is we've got 2 weeks before Labor Day. Who knows how many more days we're gonna have even in September. And so I just wanted to communicate that and make sure that and ask you maybe, is that part of your thought process as you develop next year's calendar?
I have heard those comments and okay, and we'll be taking a look at that. It is my intention to put a calendar committee together that will help review my calendar and provide suggestions and input, and then make revisions as necessary before bringing that to the board. At this point, I am considering making 2 different calendars, one that is somewhat similar to what we have now, and one that would start later and get feedback from everybody on which way they want to go.
Thank you.
I know that traditionally the calendar is the way it is because we really want to keep the 2 semesters fairly equal in time. And senior high really wants to have finals completed before students go home for Christmas break. If we push school back, I mean, that will be impacted. And students would go on break before their finals were taken for first semester.
Seems like one of those situations where you have to do the most amount of good to create, or I mean, make a decision that produces the most good for student outcomes. And those are both important for student outcomes there. So.
And after making 12 calendars, I know that I will not make everybody happy. But
Never.
we'll do the best that we can for our students and our staff and our families.
Thank you.
Mr. Sassy.
Very quick clarification. This is why it's great to have committed managers who watch board meetings and can text you information that you forget about that's important. So Jay just reminded me that we do have Grandview on this year's capital outlay list as well. And so that project design will start this year and then hopefully by next school year be in place as well. So those are the major projects we have over the next couple of years.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
thanks, Jade.
Yeah, thanks, Jade, wherever you are.
Yes. Mrs. Urban.
For your calendar committee, are you just looking at having staff or are you looking at having community members? I know I've heard from a number of parents that I think would like to weigh in and to have somebody at every level or a parent from every level might be helpful or from the tourism industry. Obviously, like you said, you won't make everyone happy, but I think being able to try and have a representative, a committee that's representative of a cross section of our community would be helpful. Just my 2 cents.
Thank you. I will either have some parents on the committee or send the calendars to parents for feedback so that they can get that input.
Mrs. Moore.
What would have to change today for the schools to be closed all day? What would have to have been different? The only reason I'm asking is because I had a teacher at Wilson come to me and tell me, and I've already told you this, that at 7:30 this morning, her room was 87 degrees. So I'm just trying to, I don't know what to tell people sometimes when they're struggling, and I don't know what the rules are, if there are any rules of complete closure for the day.
I am not aware of any schools that have done complete closures for heat. It is something the district could consider. I did go and tour Wilson Elementary at 12:30 this afternoon. And the principal took me up to the 2nd floor on the side that is in the sun and is the hottest. And it is quite warm, but I mean, I think it was functional today. Tomorrow will be worse, I'm sure.
Mr. Sassy.
I think just very good response. To add to that from the facility perspective, oftentimes what the facility crew is trying to do is pull cooler air in at night, lower the temperature in the building, especially obviously in those buildings that don't have or have limited air conditioning coverage, so that it is a good working environment until the point at which those classrooms hit a certain temperature. We do monitor around the district. We have classroom monitoring technology, and so we're able to monitor not all classrooms, but a handful of classrooms in every building in which we know what's happening with the temperature. And so a lot of the data has been based on that. I'm sure that there are rooms in buildings that tend to get very hot, and depending on where they're facing in terms of orientation to the sun and some of those types of factors, you could certainly see classrooms that in a building are hotter than other classrooms or other areas. So I think it makes for a really complex and difficult process of trying to really pinpoint how and when you make that call, and when it's most effective. And if there are situations where the buildings are not cooling down to the point that a full day is needed, but it's really complex. And so those are not fun conversations. I think I speak for everybody involved in trying to make sure that we have enough information and are making good decisions for everyone on behalf of the district. But
Any other questions about the heat enclosures? All right.
Okay, next I have a staffing update. While staffing does remain a challenge, particularly at the elementary level and within our special education programs, I did want to share some encouraging signs of progress. Our number of open positions has decreased by 14% compared to this time last year. Our general education teacher turnover rate has steadily improved. In 22-23, our turnover rate was 17.3%. In 23-24, it was 15%. And in 24-25, it was 14.1%. So we are seeing improvement. And I believe the state average is right around 15%. So we're even a little bit better than the state average. And our overall staff retention rate has increased from 81% to 83%. Having said that, we do have some positions that haven't been filled yet. All of our elementary classrooms are filled, but we do have 2 behavior classrooms at Kibben Custer that are currently being filled by our CEC staff, 1 Lakota culture teacher, and 1 interventionist specialist at the elementary level. We have 1 science teacher position open at the middle school, 1 freshman seminar teacher, a math teacher, and 2 science teachers open at the high school. All of those positions have been covered through internal arrangements to ensure that learning continues without any interruption. And we are still committed to actively recruiting and advertising so that we can backfill those roles as soon as possible. To date, we have hired 88 new teachers. 39% of those are brand new first-year teachers. 28% have 1 to 5 years experience, and 33% have 6 years or more. So I feel like that's a nice even split. 16% of our new teachers have master's degrees, 6% have a doctorate degree, and 41% received hiring bonuses. Overall, we had 121 teacher resignations in 24-25. The top reasons cited for resignation were relocation, medical issues, personal matters, and retirement, which those factors are largely beyond our district's control. We currently do have 51 open staff positions in the classified area, 13 in nutrition, 3 for SPED bus aides, 10 for bus drivers, 13 for support services, and 12 for clerical. So we are continuing to advertise and recruit for those positions in addition to the teaching positions. Okay. An enrollment update. Our August 18th, 2025 enrollment, so as of yesterday, we had 12,091 students. Last year, on the day before school started, we had 12,324. Last year, on the first day of school, we had 12,441, so it went up a little bit. But last year, on the last day of September, which is our official state count, we had 12,194. So it actually went down then. Our estimate for this year was 12,050 students. We know that we will have a lot of movement in and out over the next few weeks and even before that last day of September. So it's pretty difficult to predict what our official count will be. But the difference between the day before school start last year and the day before school started this year is a negative 233 students. So we are likely to have some reduction in our enrollment. And that is just a chart for you over the last several years that shows the trend in enrollment with an estimate for 2025 based on the data that we have available.
Do you know, or do we have access to data on like kindergarten entry, like just looking at the trends of whether like losing students in like middle school, high school versus, I just know I was at a couple schools today and they mentioned like just kindergartens are smaller. And I know there's nationally, internationally, like birth rate changes. I just wondered if we have that data at this point, or if we.
Yeah, I don't have the data with me now, but we could certainly look at that. And I would say anecdotally, just looking at the data, that yes, the kindergarten classes are smaller than our upper grade levels. Go ahead.
So if you take a broad view, K through 12, our enrollment is the least at the kindergarten levels. For example, our kindergarten our current kindergarten enrollment is 772. Our first grade is 835, whereas when you get to high school, like our sophomore group is 1,041. So, and then we kind of tailor off a little bit to our juniors are 880. So it's kind of almost a bell curve. Our middle school currently has a net increase of over 40 students. Our elementary, looking at our data year over year, is down about 90 students so far, and our high school is down 100 and some. So rough estimates, but that's some trends.
Thank you very much, Dr. Strasser.
Okay, anybody else? Is our hand up still not working? Okay, all right. All right, Dr. Thompson. Back to you. Okay. Any questions for Dr. Thompson? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. At this time, we'll have a report from Mr. Sassy.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you, President Carr. You can call me doctor.
All right,
Just-
I might start doing that.
A really short report again this week, board. Don't fret. Next month we'll be back with long, convoluted financial conversations as usual, but very, very short. Had an opportunity to do several school visits today, first day of school. I think it's always a great chance for those of us who are not in that direct school environment to reconnect to the purpose of why we're all here and why we're doing what we're doing. Just amazing to see the chaos and energy that those folks deal with. So huge shout out and thank you to all of our schools, all the school staff, particularly those at East Middle School in Valley View, where I have kids enrolled. Just did an amazing job creating a really safe, inviting environment, making kids feel good, feel cared for and safe. I'm always impressed with the job that our schools do on that first day of school and inviting kids in. So that was really positive and wanted to give a shout out to the schools. Secondly, I'd like to give a huge shout out to the support service staff, all support service staff across the district. I always use the analogy, they're the offensive linemen of our system. They do a ton of hard work that often goes completely unnoticed behind the scenes, getting the buildings ready, ensuring transportation's ready, ensuring food's ready, all those things. And particularly over the summer when everything else is kind of in that lull period, those folks are working hard, ensuring that all those logistic pieces are up and ready to go by the time we start school. So all support service staff across the district, no matter what function you're in, huge thank you for everything you did and all your hard work over the summer in making this first day a success. First day is always a challenge, no matter where you're at in the district. I think it went off fairly smoothly, only a couple small literal fires, so I think we're okay. Nothing that our crews couldn't handle, and I think a mostly successful day on the support service side. So again, thank you to our incredible support service staff. Very quickly, wanted to touch on busing. Transportation info went out about 2 weeks ago with all the finalized routing information, stops, times, all those things. Got a lot of feedback from the community. I think mostly positive, obviously some concerns around distances to stops, around concerns about stops and those types of things. I think those are all things we knew were going to come. Obviously, in some of the adjustments that we had to make, there was going to be trade-offs in terms of being able to efficientize that process and ensure that we were able to run the routes. All routes went out successfully today. We had to juggle some things. We had a few resignations over the last couple of weeks. However, we made all routes today. Minor hiccups. There were a few things that we know we need to adjust. But overall, very good. One of the important things I wanted to add in some of the feedback in concerns around stops is that the vast majority of stops, 99% of stops, are bus stops that were previously established and have been used by the district for several years now. So I think there was at times some confusion and some concern from some stakeholders around the idea that we were establishing new stops in areas that have not been used as stops previously. And I wanted to clarify that the vast majority, outside of a few stops that we added in newer areas of the community where new residential is happening, had been previously established stops that had been used for several years at this point. Overall, I think, again, the majority of the feedback we got was constructive and good. We were able to take some of that feedback and some of those suggestions and incorporate it and make some adjustments. And then there were some areas where, unfortunately, we couldn't do that because of the logistics of ensuring that we were making all the gears turn the way that we needed to. So overall, very positive. I really want to tell the community we appreciate your patience as we continue to deal with this. We're going to continue to monitor throughout the first half of the year, determine if there's second half of the year adjustments. And then obviously, as we've talked about many times, this is going to be an ongoing conversation. This is a situation that's not magically going to fix itself and disappear. And so we will continue to monitor, continue to have the discussion and determine what adjustments, if any, are needed and go forward from there. Lastly, wanted to say, there is one more day to respond to the survey out in the community. August 20 is when the survey window closes. The company will continue to accept surveys if they get them back in the mail or online. However, they won't be added to the total that the board will see next week in school perceptions presentation regarding the results of the survey. So if you haven't responded, you still have a day and a half to respond. Please go out and do it. We will certainly rely on that feedback to help formulate next steps in where we move forward from here. So any questions? Happy to answer them, President Carr.
Any questions for Mr. Sassy? Yes, ma'am, Mrs. Clapham.
Some of these are kind of like, well, I personally experienced them, so I want to ask. One, so on the survey, if they want another digital code, what's the easiest way?
The easiest route would be to contact Mrs. Schaefbauer. She has additional digital codes that we've been issued from school perceptions that she can send out and they can access the survey that way.
And then two things on busing. One, so you mentioned the transportation information. Was there like a date and then things were mailed out? And so if you put your bus information in after that, is it possible that you haven't got your or
Certainly, yes. It certainly could have. I am not going to remember the date right off the top of my head. Obviously, that's always a challenging process of trying to pull all that information together and give the stakeholders enough time to make sure they're registered and they've requested busing and done all those things, and that we can calculate our routes and ensure we have capacity and all those things. So I would say it would be completely possible that there would have been a gap between that information, essentially, of registration and not getting that information. What we've encouraged everyone to do is if you have registered for busing and you haven't received that information, reach out to student transportation right away. They'll ensure that all that gets processed and they can give you that information right away and make sure that the student is on the route and everything's ready to go.
And following up on that, because, you know, I just asked for last week, I see that's a friend.
Yeah.
But I did learn something that, and for the public, that a lot of people like look on Skyward, I mean, on Stopfinder, I didn't realize now on Skyward, you can tap on busing and it'll tell you you're stopping the time, and I talked to multiple parents that didn't actually know that was in Skyward or had never looked there before. And so either app works, so some people don't necessarily use Stopfinder, I would suggest to look near Skyward, so it'll tell you the exact location of your house.
Great thought.
Mr. Sassy, so people that respond late to the survey, while those, you made the statement that those numbers will be included, but may not be in the results or the calculation or the analysis of the information we get.
Yeah.
At some point, will that get updated?
Certainly.
Okay, because it is, I mean, there is a potential for late notices to
Certainly.
change the analysis of the results that we get. And so,
Certainly.
I mean, I don't know how to solve it, but it's just a concern that knowing that we might not have heard from everybody,
Sure.
we have to make a decision is kind of unnerving a little.
Yeah, great question and great point. I appreciate you bringing that up, President Carr. I think school perceptions made a really great analogy that they want their surveys to be sort of a living document that continues to gain that feedback and helps us to understand where the community is going, what their priorities are. And so they don't view it as we report this information to you all one time and then everything's over and our relationship is done. It's an ongoing thing that they're going to continue to help us interpret that data, slice that data different ways to look at areas of support, areas of improvement, all those things. So I think you make a great point. Obviously, they have to set a deadline for the ability to put a presentation together and compile the results and all those things. But yes, certainly if folks are responding after that date, their feedback's still going to get heard. There's still going to be opportunities to put it before the board. That's not lost out in space anywhere. So you will have multiple updates from school perceptions as those later respondents come in where you'll get the updated information.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from Mr. Sassy? Ms. Stephenson?
Yeah, I got two for you here.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sassy.
Please.
First of all, congratulations. I think it's a huge win to not have to cancel a bus route this week.
Thank you.
And I have not heard from much feedback on the bus routes from the public. I think that's probably because my area doesn't, has probably more kids who are not affected by busing, but I do think I have told people, I wanted to say, I'm pleased to hear that you have made some adjustments based on feedback. Because in my mind, a district this big, there certainly could be the possibility that it makes more sense if you live in that neighborhood. Everybody knows it's easier here and not here.
Sure.
So I appreciate that you're open to feedback. But on the whole, I'm so much more in favor of not canceling routes than, for weeks at a time than to have kids have to go a little further to get to their bus stop.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'm also not trying to put you on the spot, but I am going to put you on the spot. Since you were at Valley View today, we've gotten several emails. The board has really concerned about student safety, for those kids who do walk, and that the traffic was a mess and the parking was a mess. And at some point kids are going to get hurt. And I don't go to Valley View in the morning. And potentially I should, but since you've been there, can you give a little analysis of what happened this morning and if it's different than what normally happens and what you think?
Excellent question. So I've been going in and out of Valley View and now East Middle School for, this will be the 6th year. I would tell you from my observation this morning, I didn't necessarily observe anything different than what I would call normal as a parent or observer. I will tell you that with all due respect to everyone who was sitting in these seats before us, I think that there are some major problems at Valley View and at East Middle in terms of traffic flow, in terms of just the sheer volume of people and vehicles trying to get in and out of that facility every morning. And it's a very difficult situation. I think there are factors internally. For example, I think the design of the parking and the entrance and exit area for a 650 capacity enrollment school was not well designed for that type of movement in and out of that site. It's essentially really a couple of choke points when you think about it, and when you look at the entrance and exit areas, and it makes it very, very difficult to get in and out. So those are things that from a design and function perspective make it difficult. The other two things that we have much less control over that make it difficult are one, the area just continues to grow. I mean, there's literally new houses every day. And so more traffic, whether that's people actually trying to get into the school or not, it contributes to the traffic congestion in that area. Secondly, and probably the biggest issue is there's really one major entrance and exit street in that entire community, and that's leading Homestead Street out to Elkvale. And the unbelievable amount of traffic that road gets in the morning, again, whether it's from school traffic or folks commuting to work or whatever, it just compounds all of those issues. And so, you know, when I was leaving there this morning, even at after 8, I was there until after 8, there was traffic from Homestead all the way into Valley View loop, pickup drop-off loop. So it's a really difficult issue. We have discussed it. We have talked in the past about how we could improve it. I think we need to revisit that conversation and continue to talk. However, there's only so much we can control. I also think we need to open up some conversations with the city in terms of what their major road plans are over the next couple of years as that area continues to quickly expand. Because that's going to have to be part of the solution. They're just, if there were additional major exits and entrances to get out of, I think it would, I'm not a road engineer by any means, but it would certainly help that congestion problem in that area. So sorry, that was a long answer, but it is a serious issue. And I know there are major concerns, and I see that, you know, often as an employee and as a parent. And so I hope the community understands we're doing everything we can. I do think we need to revisit the conversation. We need to talk more about potential solution to that. But it is a problem, and it's a difficult problem.
I know that in the facilities department, you met with city planners.
Yeah.
Is that going to be an ongoing thing, meeting with
Yeah.
city planners?
Yeah.
Because maybe this would be something to bring up. You're absolutely right. It's not going to change. And I think we do need to focus on the things we can control. As our teacher of the year brought up yesterday, I listened. We need to
Yeah.
focus on what we can control. And in this instance, is there anybody at the district that can look in, watch what's going on and make sure that kids and pedestrians are able to cross safely, that's not getting, I mean, somebody brought up the need for a crossing guard. I don't know if that's true. If you don't mind looking into that to see if there's a way that we could make sure that we aren't gonna have a hurt kid.
Sure.
Because of this. And it's inconvenient to parents to have to wait in their car, and I am sorry, and I think might be something that's out of our control. But if there's a way that we can avoid injury to pedestrians.
So I can say, and I would defer to school administration to make any clarification, but there have been crossing guards at both ends, both entrances essentially to Valley View area. Inside of the loop, there have been crossing guards stopping people through the crosswalks, even inside the loop. I think that school administration, again, and I'm not aware that anything has changed, is doing everything they can to try to control that. And I don't mean for this to sound like a cop-out excuse. I think you kind of have to be there and see the sheer volume of people and cars trying to get in and out of that every morning to understand the scope of the issue that they're dealing with. It's just incredibly difficult. And I think the first day of school exacerbates that, because you probably have a lot of parents that would typically send their kids on the bus that want to come to the first day of school and take pictures and have that whole experience, which is great. But obviously, the more you're trying, more vehicles and people you're squeezing in and out of there, the more difficult it makes it. So, but I think that's something we can continue to talk about. We have had companies come in and do traffic studies near and at other problem areas at schools to really understand the traffic flows and some of those things. And I think that might be a good step forward with Valley View as well to better understand some of the specific issues that are contributing to that problem. But certainly something that we'll dive into.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Dr. Sassen? Yes. Mrs. Irvin.
I was gonna just add that I think the DOT is actually an important part of that conversation as well. Because they are in charge of Elkvale, and that is a super dangerous area. They probably need to expand that. As you're coming over that hill, they have warning lights to slow down, but oftentimes that turning lane to go onto Homestead is so backed up that it's way out of the turning lane. And if you come over that hill, there have been a number of accidents there. And I have, just as a citizen, I've called DOT, but I think it's just a whole problem area. So we're one piece of a greater problem, I think.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, thank you for that report. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, board.
At this time, we're having a presentation from Friends of the Children, HESAPA, Ms. Taisha Grayhorse.
Hi, I think Dr. Strasser had a comment, actually. Go ahead.
I was just gonna give you just one more piece of context.
Sure.
2 schools, 1,200 students. And when you talk about sheer volume and the choke points, not just to the Homestead and Elkvale point, but coming out of the school. And today there were a lot more walkers than maybe normal. That was very noticeable when I went through. So just perspective.
Thank you. Thank you for noticing that.
It's
Appreciate
the
that.
teacher in me. It's okay. We see the hands up in the back. Well, thank you guys so much for welcoming us on this kind of a big school board meeting. It's the first day of school, so happy first day of school to everybody, and you guys all survived it. I haven't checked in with my mom yet, who's a 3rd grade teacher, so maybe she didn't survive it, but I'm sure she did. But again, thank you so much for your guys' time this evening. My name is Tarisha Grayhorse. I'm the program director of Friends of the Children for our Rapid City location. Bobby and I have like a system here. Okay, perfect. So Friends of the Children is just one of many programs that operate within RCAS, and I'm so fortunate to get to highlight this tonight for all of you. But overall, our mission, that's okay, that's okay. We had a system, we didn't get to practice it yet though. Perfect, that's exactly it, awesome. Our mission essentially at Friends of the Children is that we truly believe if we partner mentors, professional mentors with our children who are most at promise, is how we like to refer to them, that if we build a long-term successful relationship for 12 years, that these students will be successful. So Friends of the Children is a national organization. Our location opened up in 2022, but Friends of the Children has nationally been around for about 30 years. So the nice thing is while we're still relatively new, we know the model's proven because it's worked in so many other places. Nice, thank you. So the reason why we're talking, or I am coming and speaking with you all today, is because our staff are welcomed into the school buildings every day. And so here on screen, you can see the 4 professional mentors that we have in Rapid City. We have 2 male mentors and 2 female mentors. And then of course it's myself. But even today, I had the joy of stopping by a number of elementary schools and just getting to walk into those buildings, feeling the warm and the cool buildings. And it's just, honestly, I just love that so much. You don't understand what it's like unless you walk into a school, just like the hive of activity that they are. We got to see cute little kindergartners walking in a line to like 5th graders, you know, making their way to lunch. It's just, it's really, truly the heart of our work. But because we know that we're having staff into the buildings, it's super important that the school administrators and the school people recognize who they are, because these are safe people. So our mentors go through very rigorous background checks while also participating in some extensive professional development. So they are, when we say professional mentors, we truly mean it. Like, this is their full-time salaried positions. This is what they do. And our staff is very highly equipped to work with the students and the families that we do. So, but that's why we're here, so that we can introduce them. Our founder from about 30 years ago is Duncan Campbell. The thing about Duncan is that he was a foster child himself. And so that's kind of why our program is built around the students who have the most promise. Is because we know that Duncan is living proof that if you have the right people in your life, that who knows what you can be. So yeah, nationally there's 41 chapters. I kind of can't believe it. It just continues to grow. We're actually present in 12 RCIS elementary schools. I stopped by 10 today. Did not have the chance to hit 2 of them, but I will stop by those as soon as I can. One of them being Black Hawk Elementary. So I will make my way out there, I promise. But honestly, when I was putting this together and thinking about the kids that we have so far spread across our elementary schools, I couldn't believe it. Like, we're in 12 different elementary schools, which is a huge, it's like, I think if I'm not mistaken, there's 14 elementary schools. Like, we're almost in 100% of elementary schools, which is phenomenal to think about. So I sent you all just some reference pages to your email that you can, if you want to dive a little bit deeper into, always can. But the model that Friends of the Children operates on is that our relationships are individualized and they're intentional. So each of our mentors works with 8 youth at the most. And that's because we know that it takes a lot of time and effort to build those relationships, and anything more than 8 kind of becomes where they don't get as much one-on-one attention as they deserve. So that's why we stick to 8. We work with youth in the schools, at their houses, and in the community. So our mentors spend 2 hours a week in school in the classrooms with the students, and are true partners, like in education, for the kids that we have here. And the nice thing is any teacher tells you the way to measure learning or, effectiveness is to evaluate. So then Friends of the Children model is research-based. So our national office gives assessments regularly. And honestly, it's just through the participation of our school staff and our families that we get this data, which, as we all know, is invaluable for what we do. But another thing that's huge that our mentors do is not only do we support the youth, but we support their families as well. I always like to say nobody's born knowing how to be a parent, right? I have 2 kids at General Beetle, and don't tell them, but I'm just kind of guessing most days, right? And so our mentors are also really big supports for our families too, in connection to other resources in the community, also just like a safe ear to go to. I think being a parent in the other spaces that I've worked in can be a very isolating and lonely thing. And so our mentors can just be that safe place as well to continue to encourage them when parenting gets hard. And anybody with kids will tell you parenting gets hard. So it's truly like a real deep relationship. And I see it every day with the families that our mentors work with. here are some of the data that our national office has compiled over 30 years. Kids in our program, 83% of them graduate high school. Friends of the Children HESAPA is the first culturally specific site. So if you've followed the trends of RCAS Indigenous students, we know that unfortunately 83% of them are not graduating high school. The number is unfortunately much, much lower than that, but we are hoping to truly target that through these long-term relationships. Another key thing that we focus on is that 98% are not teenage parents. And that's a huge part of breaking generational poverty, which is another big focus of Friends of the Children, is to break that cycle. 92% enroll in post-secondary education, serve our country, or enter the workforce upon like high school graduation. We start with kids who are between the ages of 4 and 6 years old, and we stick with them. When we say that 12 years, we mean through high school graduation. And so this is how we're so fortunate to have these numbers. 93% remain free from involvement of the juvenile justice system, which also, if you follow any of the trends just locally, is unfortunately not the case for our Indigenous youth. So we have some really promising data and real numbers to back up how effective this is. And honestly, through your guys' help, we're able to implement this with the kids that we have now. So what this means for you guys, or what this means for the staff that is listening, the teachers, the principals, when we can't do this without your guys' help. So as we know, principals are the gatekeepers to their schools, but teachers are the experts in education. So our mentors, when they go into the classrooms, I know myself as a teacher, sometimes you get really uncomfortable having strangers in your classroom. There's honestly just so many people as a teacher that you're meeting that, like meeting another person on top of it can just kind of, it used to put me in survival mode. So just speaking from my own experience, we are going to take the time to help the school teachers and parapros and reading interventionists feel comfortable with our mentors. We are not going to the classrooms to assess the teachers, right? We're there to just support our students in their education. And we can't do that without the teachers who are the experts in education. Like I was saying, our mentors are the relationship experts. So our oldest kids right now are in 3rd grade, which is kind of crazy to me, but our mentors have stuck with them from pre-K and or kindergarten to 3rd grade. So having that historical knowledge of the families, any transitions those kids have gone through, we can help really fill in the blanks of the new kids that the teachers get every year. We will need some assistance in collecting this data. Of course, it's entirely voluntary, but we like to get into the family Skyward accounts. This is all with the consent of our families, but that data is important for our mentors to continue to actually be effective. We're having a really big intention on literacy coming up and this year. So that means we might need some test scores, or just even just to casually like, hey, how is so-and-so doing with reading? And then the teachers can just kind of share how they feel like they're doing, or maybe we need help with sight words, or open or closed vowels, just anything like that. Those conversations are vital for my mentors to have with the teachers. But the other thing too is that RCAS staff are child enrollment partners. So unfortunately right now, we are not looking at taking on a whole new cohort of kids, but we do have some spots. And the teachers are the ones who have that broader view of the kids who are maybe most at promise. And so I would need to work with them closely to see if we can accept these kids into our program and truly dedicate those 12 years. But I can't do it alone, because we have a lot of kindergartners, as Dr. Strasser was telling us. So I will need their help in that. But I guess that's just kind of a really broad overview of what we do. I am fortunate to have a mentor here with me now. He's a little shy, so he didn't really want me to point him out, but this is Brent. He's our newest male mentor up here in Rapid City. But yeah, I guess if you guys have any questions, I think this is the last one. Woo, okay, yeah, that was the last one. So if you guys have any questions about what we do, or anything at all, like ask away. Or if you have any questions of Brent too.
Mrs. Urban.
So I think your program and this message tonight is learning so much about how relationships matter and how achievement, behavior. So glad that the program after having conversations with Mr. Swan, I'm concerned about your program just in terms of funding.
Sure.
And so do you feel like, it's sustainable? And have you, and this is kind of questions, but,
Mhm.
have you had a lot of turnover in mentors? Sort of how do you deal with that?
Yeah.
Attached to them?
Yeah.
And, yeah, we'll just start there.
No, those are great questions. In terms of the funding thing, we are a nonprofit. And so I think if you were to ask any nonprofit, like, hey, how's it going with money? We could always use more. But I will say the nice thing is having this national office, being around for 30 years, we do have like professional grant writers who are always working with us and for us to find opportunities. Right now, we're in a great place. We work with United Way of the Black Hills, so a huge, I guess, like we're part of a lot of other nonprofits, and we're sitting in a really healthy spot, which is key to continuing to do this work. So I guess for the funding thing, we are always looking for grants, donors and things like that. But right now we're great. So we'll just continue to do this work. The other thing is that it's easy to talk about this work because it truly speaks for itself. And when you find the right people who are dedicated to this mission, they do want to help in that. And so honestly, anybody we talk to about this is fully on board with it and even financially on board with it too. In terms of the mentors, the thing that I've noticed in this, so I joined Friends of the Children in March, so I'm still sort of fairly new. But in terms of turnover, yes, it has happened. This is a job that if your own bucket's not full, it's really hard to continue to pour into other people's buckets. So staff well-being and staff retention is a huge focus of mine. Having come from the classroom, I know what burnout looks like, and I know how devastating it can be when great teachers just the job becomes a job as opposed to like a mission. Right now, we're at a really great spot in terms of staff for Rapid City. Brent here, while he's new to Rapid City, actually has almost a year under his belt doing this position. So none of my staff is brand new. And how to sort of facilitate when we do have mentors leave is I stay in contact with the families as best as we can. We do program-wide events, so those families are always welcome to still attend until we find a new mentor. I facilitate those relationships, so we still try to have some level of stability in that change, but it is tough. And I think it's good to know the gravity of like when we commit to 12 years, we mean it, and then when we don't want to be another adult who families open up and trust and then leaves. So that's the whole point of what we're trying to stop. So I guess right now I feel pretty good about staffing.
So, I say I have to like think it out loud sometimes. So you said you have a few spots and I know like the max is 8. And so in theory, it's like, so you get to a maximum, you basically are at a maximum. So you either would bring in on another mentor or someone graduates. Is that pretty accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And honestly, the reason why we have open spots, it's truly people move out of our service area. So we can serve Pennington County, but unfortunately we have kids who move outside of that. So we have some kids who are foster placed outside. And as much as we can, we try and keep in contact with letter writing and stuff like that. But in a way, it sort of does open up another spot for another child who could be at Promise with us. So yeah, that does happen.
Bobby, can you go back to the previous slide? Ms. Grayhorse, since you've only been here till March, you might not be aware of this situation, but the last time we had a presentation, there was an issue is a strong word, but how does the district, how are the district able to provide Skyward data and child enrollment, because the district doesn't necessarily look for students to refer to you.
Sure.
And I think, I don't know, I better not ask Kelsey, but I don't know if those of you who may remember that kind of sticking point of how we
No,
can
it's fine.
legally give you Skyward information.
Mhm. So we have release of information forms that our parents fill out themselves
Okay.
in their child enrollment stuff. So we would not go to teachers and say, like, what's their login and password for Skyward. We are much more in terms of like encouraging our families to do that. And if that means we have to sit there and help them do that, then we can do that. So it's everything is through the caregivers that we have in our program, which is nice because then that helps us truly empower them to sort of take on a more active role in education when that can be so intimidating for some caregivers.
Mr. Swan.
President Carr, we also have a signed MOU with the district,
Mhm.
so we are, we're truly in this together.
Yeah.
You know, I think that, Dr. Val Bigelow was the one that had signed the original, agreement, so it's been in force since we started to come here. And I think it's almost 3 years old, so. And I talked with Dr. Strasser about it, and it's still in force. We made sure that we were everything is above the board. We want to make sure that we're transparent. We're working hard within the school district. I guess within all of our legal responsibilities of confidentiality and with FERPA, all of that.
All right. Anybody else? Thank you very much. Ms. Taylor.
Thanks.
That was a
Thank you,
wonderful
guys.
Presentation, appreciate that.
Thanks.
I have no conflict of interest. I will entertain a motion. I will entertain a motion to approve the proposed agreements.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? It's been moved and seconded to approve the proposed agreements. Any discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Thanks, President Carr. I just wanted to highlight that I brought up with board leadership, I wanted to let the other board members know, I brought up with board leadership that it's confusing to me and a little inconsistent that some of these agreements have dollar signs attached or dollar amounts attached to them and some of them don't. So I believe in the interest of transparency and also just ease of our access and public access and recollecting what we paid, it's just easier to find if we ask directional leaders to go ahead and put estimates of cost or actual cost of these agreements attached to the agenda. I wanted to be clear, I'm not directing that to happen. I just asked leadership to talk about it at board leadership, and I wanted you all to be aware in case you wanted to provide some input on that or if you had any input on it. So, thank you.
Dr. Thompson, any issues, or Dr. Sassy, any issues with that, or is that something doable, or?
No, I think that is completely doable. Right now, I think different directors are just putting in different information, and so we need to clarify what that look like.
And if I may interrupt, I apologize. This is Director Strong. Not all agreements have dollar amounts attached, Christine, so that might be why you may not be seeing dollar amounts attached to some of those. We have MOUs, we have agreements, and then we have the contracts for services. So you may not be seeing dollar amounts on some of those simply because they do not have dollar amounts attached. So I just want to provide that clarification, but maybe we could take the extra step to just say no dollar amount provided or no dollar amount included in this agreement, just to provide further clarification.
All right, thank you, Dr. Strong. Any other discussions on any of these agreements? Okay, all in favor of approving the proposed agreements signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say no. Okay. Motion carries 7-0. This time, are there any consent agenda items that a board member would like to pull? Okay, I'm going to pull item D. Any other items? Okay, all in favor of approving the proposed agenda except for item Delta. Wait a minute, did I get a?
I don't think we moved in second.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the proposed the consent agenda except for item D.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the proposed consent agenda except for item Delta. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Any opposed, please say no. Okay, motion carries. All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the emergency declaration RCAA roof replacement.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the emergency declaration RCAA roof replacement. I pulled this item so that we can have a discussion of some information that now I won't be able to stop calling you Dr. Sassy. Mr. Sassy has for us on this issue.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, President Carr. So we did have a discussion about this in board leadership and agreed that it would be good information for the full board to have. I believe the Facilities Committee has heard a little bit about this as well. Just a quick step backwards. So first of all, South Dakota codified law allows for situations that are deemed emergencies for the board to bypass the official procurement process for school districts. So what you're approving essentially is due to the nature of the damage to the roof at RCAA, where that damage is, some of the complications and issues that presents for us to bypass that bid process and make sure that we are making the repairs in a way that best serves everyone in that building. So that's what you're approving, and all the law that allows that is referenced in the motion item. The second interesting part about this, and this could easily go into a rabbit hole conversation, I'll do my best to avoid that, I think highlights the changes in the insurance industry over time. School districts in particular, over the last especially 5 or 7 years, the insurance landscape for school districts has changed tremendously in that time. We've seen fewer and fewer companies being willing to enter the market for school districts, oftentimes because there are a lot of issues that go along with school districts, both from a liability standpoint and a property standpoint. And the margins for profit have continued to shrink in terms of the insurance companies' financial aspect in this. And so as a result, what we've seen is less competition for business. Insurance companies trying to ensure, and I don't necessarily mean this in a negative way, ensure that they are getting the return on investment that they want to see for covering school districts, which oftentimes results in unfavorable conditions for school districts. For example, several years ago, when I started with the district, we had a policy in which our deductible for wind and hail damage, which is what led to the damage we're talking about tonight, was $10,000. Over time, over the 6 years I've been here, the policy that we are currently under, the minimum deductible is $100,000 per occurrence. So every time that the district has a wind or hail event in which a building is damaged, as it was here, we have at minimum $100,000 deductible. So when you look at a situation like this, and as you can see in the attachment, the estimate for this work right now is $163,000. If we went forward and claimed that on our insurance, we would essentially get about 40% of the claim back, $63,000-ish back. What we really have to start to weigh in determining whether or not we want to file this as a claim is the return for that claim enough to justify what it's going to do potentially to the premium in the next year, whether it's with that insurance provider or whether it's with another company coming in. And so in this situation, as we had that conversation and we looked at what the premium rates have looked like over the last several years, we determined that it was not a good claim because of the amount that we would recoup, and what the potential could be to increase the premium as we moved into not only next year, but several years down the road. I think that's the other aspect of this that sometimes goes overlooked is when we talk about premium increases, we don't factor that into just 1 year. We have to think about that increase essentially is going to stay with us for infinity at that point. Very rarely are we going to see a company come in and underbid in terms of premium. So we have to think about that for several years into the future. So essentially, I really just wanted to highlight that. I don't think there's any additional action that's necessary from the board at this time, but wanted you to be aware of some of these changing financial conditions that we're facing as markets change, especially on the insurance side of that. I did have an interesting conversation with WDI, Western Dakota Insurers, who is our administrative company, sort of the middleman between us and the actual insurance company. And we talked about the potential of moving to essentially a self-insured format, very similar to what the district does from a health perspective, which in my opinion would be a really financially solvent move if we can get to that point. Essentially what we're doing is paying ourselves, building a pool of resources in which we could cover our own claims, and we wouldn't have to have these very difficult conversations where we say, is this claim worth even pursuing, because it's not going to benefit us financially. And so I would really love to continue that conversation. That would be a process in which it would take several years to move from the fully insured model that we're using into a self-insured model to ensure that we have resources built up that we could cover a major claim. But I think that's an interesting thing to pursue. So really that was the bulk of the conversation. President Carr, if there's anything else you can think of or any questions, I'm happy to address them.
No, I just wanted the whole board to get the information that we got in leadership and understand why we are paying this claim ourselves instead of filing an insurance claim. Ms. Clappin.
Not really a question, kind of more of a comment. I just, come on the committee. There's a lot of this discussion at ASBSD on the state level. So a lot of districts are either getting fired by their insurance, basically, like they're just, we're not gonna cover anymore. And so ASBSD does have its own conglomerate insurance as well in a lot of schools. So this isn't just like just an us issue. We heard several schools who are struggling with issues with the statewide. So unfortunately, yeah, it kind of is how it is. The other thing, I'm glad you pulled, I was going to talk about it just as we, the deadline for the survey, and people say, well, what has the school done? These are things that, you have capital outlay. Yes. And then a roof goes, or then, we could not have predicted, oh, we're going to have to spend so we have to spend that. The school is not safe if we don't. We obviously have to. It would be irresponsible for us not to. But then at the same time, well, now I can't put $50,000 for a secure entrance somewhere else that I wanted to. And so when people ask that question, well, what has the district done with? Well, the roof happened and this happened. So really, and I understand that the general public necessarily dig into these agendas and things like we do, but that's a thing that just for people to understand when we talk about spending on our facilities, like we have to do these things, and sometimes it's a pretty big price tag.
All right, thank you. All right, anyone else? Understand this? All right, all in favor of accepting the emergency declaration, Rapid City Alternative Academy roof replacement, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say no. Okay, motion carries. Okay, items for board information. Any committee reports? All right, Mrs. Clapham.
Just as I mentioned, the ASBSD conference happened, and I think we'll probably share a little bit more about some of the things we learned there, but I represent us on the state board of directors, and the few things that came up. So it's time for our leadership to turn over. So the new president is Shane Roth, who is from DeSmet. And then the president, the way the cycle goes, then Garrett Bischoff then moves to the past president role. And so everybody kind of cycles through. So that happened. We do have a board member who sits on the NSBA National Board, and the national president was at ASBSC this year, and he mentioned for a state our size, we've either North Dakota or South Dakota has had somebody on the state board of directors like 9 out of the last 12 years, which is, they were really pleased, and that's impressive. You often don't have people, especially from smaller states, who are willing to do that. And that's Eric Stroder. And he's from Mobridge. And otherwise, there was a lot of discussion about insurance issues, schools having to go to different opportunities, or they're just being really expensive in that case. And otherwise, similar issues that we've discussed about concerns with vouchers. And there are some schools on the eastern side of the state, some districts on the eastern side of the state that have really been affected by the changes in visas. And so, for example, Huron School District is likely going to lose 300 to 400 students. A lot of their families had visas that were revoked, and that's really affecting, it's like 10 to 15% of their student enrollment. And so there are districts that are really being affected by that and trying to figure out what to do and what their next move is. And also just concern in general for those students, and where did those students go, and what happens to them. So that was a large part of the discussion, but it's always a really good group, a really good energy. Everybody's there to advocate for kids. Oh, the one thing, February 9th is going to be public school day at the Capitol. And so people can put it on their calendars now. Last year, I think it was Langford School District has sponsored it, and they will be able to talk to representatives, be in the rotunda, and really have a positive. They said last year was really positive, and they'd like it to be bigger this year. So people can start planning now to go be at the Capitol and represent our public schools, and show them, 90% of school kids in this state go to public schools, and that's a really important thing for our legislators to hear. We'd love for as many people who could go and represent us.
Thank you for that report. Right, any other committee reports? Okay, moving on to others. Does everybody gonna have a other? Okay, so let's just do what we did before. Let's just start with Christine, and if you have one, go for it. If not, we'll just move to the next person. Okay. Okay.
Just first day of school. It was a great day. I made it to 4 buildings today, and there was really great energy at all of them. I wanted to say a big shout. I ran into people from the warehouse today that were just working like busy little bees. And as Mr. Sassy said, they're kind of the unsung heroes. They get a lot done, and they do it almost unseen, which is really impressive. So thanks to them. And I know many people, obviously, we talked about the heat releases, and that as facilities, that's one of the reasons we need to invest in our facilities. And I think our families are aware of that, and making sure our community who doesn't have kids in school are aware of that. And I just wanted to do two kind of personal shout outs. One to Monument Health. It sort of started out as one person emailing me saying, oh, we want to gather donations. And then all of a sudden I got like 5 emails from 5 different departments. And so I have half a basement full of supplies for our students, which is fantastic. So I just wanted to say thank you for Monument for supporting our kids. And I know there were many, I couldn't tell you how many school supply and backpack drives I saw this year. And so our community just super stepped up and supported our kids. So thanks to our community for that. And a personal shout out to Mrs. Pfeiffer, the 504 coordinator at Wes. If anybody's ever had a kiddo who got injured with school, my son is going to be not bearing weight on a leg for at least a month. And so his whole dynamic of school changed, and Ms. Pfeiffer has been just incredible. She was there every step, every time he needed to get on the elevator, she was there. She had to print it out, like what minute he needs to leave, who is going to help him. It was really incredible. And that's another job that probably is unseen, and he's not the first or the last student that is going to need a 504 plan. And she was really amazing to work with, and I really just applaud her for her wonderful work.
Okay. I wanted to mention and thank the district for the district opener. I think that went well. It seemed to have been attended well. I was walking out, I took Dr. Buchanan to lunch, and as we were walking out, everybody that spoke to him said how much they enjoyed him and were inspired by him. And he asked about how did he do, and I said, okay, yeah, it was really good. Kind of went a little long, and he said that he forgot to put a start timer on when he started. So he didn't know when he started to know that, okay, it had been gone a little over an hour. But even with all of that, even at lunch, there were some teachers there that just talked about how much they enjoyed his speech. And so I was personally invested in that success because I'm gonna have Jamie join in. It was her and I idea that we presented to Dr. Strasser about having him come. So I hope everyone got a lot out of it, and thank everybody for coming. I visited 2 schools today. I went by first time principal Sarah Gross's school and at Norwood. And so I got a chance to visit some schools, and then I also sat in some classes at General Beadle. And the first day of school, a lot of it was learning what to do and how to do. And one classroom, the teacher was talking to them about not chewing gum. And a young person says, well, what about when a teacher chews gum? And so it's like, we know teachers are supposed to chew gum. And so they started talking about keeping your hands to yourselves. And this one young man chimed up, well, my uncle says it's always the second person that gets caught. And I mean, things kids say is just amazing. I also did not realize that there are 3 ways to sit on the floor. You can crisscross, you can mountain, and you can mermaid. And I was completely fascinated because I didn't know. I just thought you sat on the floor. But obviously, there are these 3 techniques that you're able to use. So I think from what I saw, people were excited, energetic. The teachers were teaching. And again, a lot of what I saw today was just establishing foundation and rules and those different things. So it was exciting.
Happy first day.
Right, Mr. Swan. All right. Okay. All right. At this time, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session, SDCL-1-25-2.1 and 2.3. Point 1 is discussing the qualifications of staff, employees, and point 3 is consulting with our legal counsel.
Motion.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to go into those 2 executive sessions. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no.